So what's growing on? Still out here at Heart making some more epic videos with Josh, and this video is a pretty awesome technique I've been seeing go around for a couple of years, and this is to help with nematode problems on eggplants. I believe that Josh is experimenting with nematode problems also with some figs. I don't know if we're going to get into that with this video. This one's probably going to be more tomato and eggplant focused, so hold tight.
So something I've been really interested in lately is some of these solanaceous crops, so things that are related to tomatoes and eggplants and peppers. And one of those that's really interesting is tree tomato. It's also called tamarillo, and I've never really seen it grown successfully in Florida until recently. It's more of a highland crop. It likes cool weather all year round. And it really is kind of like it tastes like a tomato. It's a fruit that's about this big, and it grows on a tree-like plant that's like 10 feet tall. Super cool plant. I had kind of written it off a long time ago, thinking that because it liked that cool weather that it wouldn't be able to be grown here. But I was out somewhere not too long ago and saw a giant one fruiting. And when I inquired, I found out that the tree was grafted onto a different rootstock. And I think that part of the reason nobody's really fruited this successfully is because the root system is super susceptible to nematodes. And the second you put the plant in, it just declines, and you never get it old enough to see what it would do. So I started messing around a few months ago with these tree tomatoes. So there's a number of varieties here, and I've got more on the way. And they're all grafted onto a rootstock called Solanum macranthum, which is an ornamental giant, it's called giant tree potato or tree potato, big purple flower. And this rootstock tolerates nematodes with no issue, and real drought tolerant, and likes the soil here. So this is a way to potentially grow some of these crops that otherwise may not be able to be grown here. I also think this is going to have to be grown in some shade to keep the temperature down, but I've seen it fruiting in Florida now, and I think there's no reason we can't do it. It's just going to have to be done in a special way. So these are all going to go out into different spots in shade, and I'm going to be evaluating different varieties, and I think we can easily find one that does well on that rootstock. So I'm also using that same rootstock for naranjilla. So this is a graft I did of naranjilla. I did about 20 of these, and I think they all took, all 20. And that new leaf there has grown since I did the graft maybe a week or two ago. And this is eggplant, which you can also graft onto this one. And this one is Solanum stromanifolia, which is another edible fruited solanum. And there's even one or two other species, but trying to do all kinds of things on this this rootstock. And this is actually for the same idea here. This is fig grafting onto a nematode resistant fig rootstock, but that's for another day. But I've written a blog about this tree tomato grafting, which you can check out. But I thought it'd be fun to show people how I do the grafts, and so other people can start experimenting with this. It's actually pretty straightforward. Here's our rootstock. So this is Solanum macranthum, and some grafting of soft tissue stuff like this is done well, the seedlings are really tiny, and that's how they do it commercially. But for a small scale person like me, it's not as practical. I don't have the nice humidity chambers and everything like that. This system's a lot more simple. So I grow these up, and then I move them up into bigger pots, and then grow them up to this size, and then they're ready to graft. So this guy got torn up by caterpillars. I just sprayed them with BT, so that should have knocked those out. First thing I'm going to do is sterilize my grafting knife with rubbing alcohol. And I wipe it down again, which probably re-infects it with a bunch of crap, but oh well. So that's my rootstock, and the first thing I'm going to do is prep it by, I like to remove these buds because that's potential for the rootstock to continue growing. I'm going to cut it off at about there. There's a bud there. I'll get that out of there, because the second you cut the top off, it just wants to push out the lower buds beneath it. So by damaging those, I think it helps the graft take instead of that. All right, then I'll take my tree tomato, which is just a seedling. I give this one the name Store because it came from a store. Gotta keep them all separate somehow though. Now I'm looking for tissue. I selected the biggest of these. You want this thicker stem stuff, and I'll use my knife to top that. Got quite some wind out here today. So then I'll remove these leaves, and I want to keep the buds though. No good reason to remove those. So, and these smell really weird.
Whoa.
Kind of disgusting.
It's like 30 feet.
Yeah. Even this leaf is going to come off. And then this small leaf, I'm actually going to cut in half. So that's my budwood. I will clean up the bottom to make a nice straight. On this case, I'm actually going to cut right here so I have a nice straight section to work with. And I'll cut this really straight, and I'll do my best not to cut a finger off. So after that's done, yeah, don't touch the bottom of that to the soil or anything. Just set it like that. I get a piece of parafilm. Some people like to use buddy tape. I use parafilm because it's cheap and because it seems to work fine. See, this is laboratory film. I stretch that out, and then I wrap up this scion before I, so just like that. When I get to the top, I'm not going to cover the terminal bud. I recently figured out that you don't need to. You can just do that, and this will immediately just start growing out right there. No problem. I have taken the film over on top and kind of crumpled it up, and it will push out, but this seems to be better. I started doing these by not wrapping the film. I would do the graft, and then I would put 4 bamboo stakes and put a bag over. That works fine. It has to be in shade. And then it starts to grow, and then you slowly have to remove the bag because it's a humidity chamber. And if you remove the bag too fast, it introduces too much dryness and the whole thing dies. And you have to then inch it into the sun every day. So it's like a 10-day process to get it back into normal conditions. I didn't really care for that. If you do this, the parafilm protects it from drying out, and then the leaves come out right into the ambient conditions they're going to be in, and you don't have to acclimate it into the lower humidity environment. So I like that. Now sometimes this pulls up a bit of water on top. I like to dab that off because water can kill a graft. People are probably going to say that I'm infecting that with bacteria. They're probably correct. These seem to take really no matter what. Now so much of this is cambial tissue. So your grafts actually don't need to be all that precise. I don't know if I've had any of these fail yet, and I've done like 30. So I'm going to do a cleft graft. So that's pretty clean, that's one side. I'll come to the other side. Also, the tissue on these is so soft that if your cuts aren't just right, the tape pulls the whole thing together, and it ends up all working out fine. That's pretty good. Take a little more off. All right. That's my cleft. Then I'm gonna match this up here. Hope we got more water accumulating. So see how the stem of that is not a circle, but it's an oval? So if it's better fit that way, I'll go that way. If it's better fit this way, I'll go this way. And also, I can go whichever direction I want. I can put it right on the edge if I need to. I've done diameter stems 3 times this, and I just put it right on the edge, almost like a side veneer graft. So I'm gonna line this up. I'm gonna make my cut right on about there, because that's where it's the same width. You're trying to match both sides of the cambium layer to each other. Oops. And the way I'm letting this sit out in the wind is not great, so I gotta get moving here. So split this open. And that sits right in there. So I'll bring it over to make sure it's flush with at least one side. Now see how when I squeeze that, it's wanting to pop out? So what I do to fix that problem is my first piece of parafilm. One annoying thing about parafilm is it clings really bad. There we go. I'll go over the top first just to keep it from wanting to pop out on me like that. Oops, sorry. Then I'll go down. This first time I'm going around is just to hold it in place. And we're trying to seal it off from moisture and also get it to hold. All right, and then the second one, I'm gonna kind of twist it up so it's more like a rope, like a string, and I'm kind of cranking that down kind of tight, and that's pulling all the imperfections in my cuts together so that there's 100% contact between the two different tissues. And that's really it. You can do this with all kinds of different things. I've also just done some peppers. So I'm doing like a sweet habanero that seems to have root problems onto like a more wild hot pepper that grows for several years as a perennial. You can do eggplants, you can do, I've got other solanum species coming in the mail like cocona that I'm gonna do this way. So I think it's a pretty novel thing. It's pretty simple. You really don't need too complicated of a nursery setup or anything to do this. And then after this, what I have to watch for is suckers are going to come up below this graft union. So I'll just keep knocking those off as they emerge. New growth will come out of those leaf axils. Keep knocking them off. In about a week, this will start to grow, and maybe a month, I'll have a nice big plant. Now, it's important to keep this, especially now that it's starting to get really hot. This is going to need to be in a pretty shaded situation and protected from drying winds. And when I water these, just to be careful, I water only the soil. I don't water the whole plant, just in case any water could find its way into that union there. And that's it.
Nice. Whoa, so all right, Josh is dropping bombs of knowledge. That is a pretty awesome little grafting technique. I thought we were going to do something with tomatoes, but no, just the naranjilla, the tree tomato, and the eggplant. Those are the ones he finds to be most affected here by nematodes. I saw another friend doing that with tomatoes, but he said it's really not needed. It's actually another disease or pest issue with the tomatoes. So pretty awesome video. Josh said he had a blog post on this kind of grafting technique. I'll leave a link down in the description below. Link for heart in the description below. If you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please be sure to do so. Most importantly, pound dirt.